So, when did counseling stop being about problem solving? Well, not anymore. Introducing solution-focused counseling with the unlicensed counselor. And now, here's your host, Steve Moak.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of The Unlicensed Counselor. My name is Steve Moak. I am the Unlicensed Counselor. And as always, so grateful to be here on a still too hot day out here in Scottsdale, Arizona. But what the heck, we're having some fun out here. And we know the cooler weather is on the way. I'm just bummed. I'm coaching my daughter's soccer team, or at least I'm supposed to be, and I've had to cancel 2 practices in a game so far because 4-year-olds are going to melt in 107 degrees out there, so we can't get out there and run around. But better safe than sorry, I suppose. But anyways, like I always say, you don't tune in for the weather here at the Unlicensed Counselor, but I got a big smile on my face. We always come up with some interesting topics and conversation before these mics heat up, and I think we just got a new episode idea that we're going to be bringing to you. Just got to make sure my daughter is not in studio when we record that one, because we're going to get into the getting into it of kind of active addiction and what that looked like. And I smile, but I really shouldn't be. But it does take you to some wild, dark, interesting, scary places, to say the least. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. So, I've had another thought rolling through my head over the last couple weeks. And it's something that I find myself doing from time to time, and I don't like it, but it kind of happens accidentally. And it's gossip. And I've never been a gossiper, but it is interesting when you're just talking to your buddies, you're at the gym, you're kind of casually hanging out, and all of a sudden you find or you notice that maybe I'm saying something or talking about somebody or kind of taking shots at somebody behind their back, and I'm like, that's gossip. And I don't do it much. I really don't. And then when I step back and I hear other people gossip that I'm privy to, I'm like, and I don't like the way it looks, sounds, feels, gives me the ick, as the kids, I think, say today. If I'm allowed to use that word at 45 still, probably not, don't care. But I think it's an important topic to kind of, again, bring to your attention. I know a lot of these things that we talk about here in the Unlicensed Counselor, it's like, okay, I know about that topic, but hopefully the 30 minutes that we spend together when you're listening to this kind of reignites a little thought. It's like, oh, maybe I need to think about that a little bit more. Or maybe I didn't think about it that way. Or maybe I participate in that behavior and I really shouldn't do that. Or I'd like to stop, and how do I do that? So today I want to get into a little bit about gossip, why it's detrimental to you, the gossiper, obviously why it's detrimental to the person being gossiped about, and then maybe how do we break that habit as well, too, so we can just kind of eliminate that, and I think we'd all be better off on social media, in person, hanging out with friends, whatever it is. I just think it's one of those things that we'd probably be better people if we could just lose it. But before we get into the funness of a gossip discussion today, I want to obviously thank our sponsor, BuzzBin Media. That's buzzbinmedia.com, BU1Zmedia.com. This is a trash can advertising service that pays you $10 a month. All you have to do is register at buzzbinmedia.com. Nothing is required. You put your name, your address. You do have to own a home and have some trash cans. That is the one limitation of signing up for this thing. But they're going to be rolling out this service in a city or neighborhood near you. What happens then is they send you out decals. You take a picture of the little ads for whatever business is being advertised to make sure that you actually put them on the side of your bin. And then, boom, they start sending you $10 a month. It's $5 a bin. So you got a trash can, you got a recycle bin, you're getting $10 a month sent directly to your Venmo account. It's truly that easy. I mean, think about it. It's like, okay, is $10 a month that much? I mean, it's all right, but you know what it is? Pays for my Netflix account, right? Pays for my Netflix and chill, if you want to think about it that way. It was a thought, right? So anyways, go to buzzbinmedia.com, sign up. There's absolutely no reason not to do this, right? buzzbinmedia.com, and big thanks to those folks as well, too. And also, I always like to plug the work that I do for the nonprofit. This is the Youth Drug Abuse Prevention. Go to the StopStartsHere.org. Again, Emmy-nominated content that we've been putting out. I think we get the award, or find out who wins the award in November or something like that, which is right around the corner. I can't believe we're October, even though it doesn't feel like October out here in Arizona, even though I put on the Halloween mix on the drive over here for my daughter and I, but it's tough to feel fall when it's 105 out still. But Go to the StopStartsHere.org. Parents, take a look at the Parents Prevention Playbook. This is a guide. This is step-by-step. This is actions that you can do to prevent your son or daughter from ever starting to use drugs. I can't think of anything more important, because once you get into that, I mean, it changes not only the individual, your son or daughter, it changes the family's trajectory, it changes everything in your life. So give us a follow on all the usual social media stops and the StopStartsHere.org. And last but not least, give the Unlicensed Counselor a follow, especially over at YouTube. We're trying to build up our YouTube audience as well, too, where we post clips of the show. So if you don't have 30 minutes to listen to it, I hope you do. I mean, you can break it up in a couple car rides and knock out the entire episode. But give us a follow on all the usual social media platforms or wherever you find finer podcasts. You can subscribe to this show as well, too. So, okay, good stuff. Well, I talked about gossip. Now, let's start by defining exactly what gossip is. Gossip is the act of sharing or discussing personal, often private or sensitive information about someone who's not present, and typically without their consent. It involves rumors, speculation, unverified facts about an individual's life, their behaviors, and a lot of times relationship, right? We've probably all seen or heard of a lot of relationship gossip. And gossip can be harmless or harmful, depending on the impact and the intent of the conversation. It's usually characterized by spreading information for entertainment, judgment, or bond socially, but it really can damage reputations, relationships, and obviously hurt trust from individuals as well, too. So I got a whole lot of content to get in today, because when I pulled back the curtain on gossip, because again, it's one of those I don't really do, but I really want to make sure that I'm not doing it, because anytime I hear it, it's like, ugh, like really, I don't want to participate in that. How do you kind of extricate yourself from a conversation if somebody's doing the gossiping? And I'm just like, I'd rather not be a part of this if at all possible. But let's think about this, right? Why is it so detrimental for the person being gossiped about? I mean, that's kind of the first person you think of. It's like, oh, we're saying this, that about the other person. But let's talk about why it's damaging to them. And it's because it can damage their reputation, right? So, like, spreading rumors about their friend's relationship, being in trouble or over or getting divorced. Maybe it's a lazy coworker. I mean, this can harm their reputation and lead to significant misunderstandings. And that is absolutely no good about the person who's not present or able to defend themselves in this conversation. And then obviously that can lead to emotional harm for the individual as well, too. You know, being the subject of gossip about a person's struggles or negative commentary on social media can leave that person feeling harmed, hurt, betrayed, all those types of things. And again, I said social media is there too, because I think that we can gossip on social media. I think gossip, we think water cooler, kid drop-off pickup, soccer game, friends, party, something like that. I mean, you can gossip on social media a lot too and really kind of hurt some people. And maybe it just kind of seems so casual or informal because you're just typing words into a keyboard and things like that. No, it can really do some damage as well too. And in fact, the mental health impact to the person that's being gossiped about can be significant as well, too. Maybe you're speculating about their financial situation or discussing their life choices behind their back. This can lead to anxiety and stress for the person that's being gossiped about. Eventually, these things always have a way of kind of percolating back to the individual, right? Even if they're not there. Or what about those conversations where maybe you're talking about someone and they walk up, right? We've all been in that situation. It's like, oh, and then everybody gets quiet. You're like, oh, what's going on? Clearly something was just going on here. That's going to have an impact on that person. And they're going to pick up on that pretty darn quickly as well, too. And you know what else this can lead to for that person is social isolation. So maybe it's a student who is gossiped about for dating someone or struggling in school. Maybe they start to feel isolated from their peers. All this gossiping kind of creates these cliques as well, too. My ex-wife, we had a teenage daughter, and you could hear and see the gossip almost in play when they'd form these groups and they'd be saying this about this girl, and then the parents would have to get involved and kind of break up some of these conversations. And these teenage girls were ruthless. I mean, it is shocking how prevalent this was and how damaging it was and how hurtful it was. It didn't get invited to this or wasn't excluded to that or said this about that. And it's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea until I kind of experienced it firsthand. I think one of the misconceptions, and I said this on social before I even started the show, I feel like gossip tends to be, associated with girls, women, ladies a little bit more, or at least traditionally has been. I don't think that's the case in any way, shape, or form. I think guys are equally as bad gossipers as any of the kind of stereotypes about females being, kind of the gossipers. I mean, at least they're on par, if not darn close to it as well, too. So, the person being gossiped about and why it's so detrimental can also lead to that loss of trust. If a person finds out they were being gossiped about regarding their career, a relationship, a personal issue that they didn't want public, it can make them really difficult to trust others. That person finds out and they heard that you were doing it. It's like, really? I thought you were my friend. Like, how am I going to be able to even trust you and saying these things going forward? I mean, that's serious. I mean, I would probably or could potentially end a friendship over something like that if somebody was doing that behind my back and I found out. And let's not ignore the career professional harm that gossip can do as well, too. I mean, gossip doesn't just take place in social circles. We've all been at the office and had little, whisper conversations with other people. Workplace gossip, such as rumors about promotions, firings, a salary. I mean, this can negatively impact somebody's professional life pretty significantly as well, too. So, I want to bring those things up. I know we think about, gossip can kind of hurt somebody. No, it can have long-lasting, profound impacts on these individuals as well, especially if they find out about this. I mean, it's a significant thing. But here's the next part of this conversation. I don't think enough gets discussed, talked about for the person doing the gossiping and why it's detrimental for the person who's actually engaging in the gossip or spreading the rumors and the gossip as well, too. And I think the number one thing when I think about the person who's doing all this gossiping is the loss of trust and credibility. So if people discover that someone is gossiping about their relationships or personal matters, such as criticizing maybe a neighbor's home renovation or their choices and colors or whatever it is, they may avoid confiding or associating with that person altogether. I don't want someone out there going, "Ooh, boy, isn't that tacky? Do you see what they did over there?" It's like, "Ooh, boy." And I'll tell you, Scottsdale, where I live, it gets kind of a bad rap for some of this as well, too. Now, I'll say bad rap. I'll also say some of it's deserved. I'm not going to paint all of Scottsdale with this kind of snobby paintbrush that a lot of people do. But there is, where there's smoke, there's fire, question mark. And I think there's enough of that where I can see where that certainly comes from. And I do think that there is a certain level of gossip that can be happening. I'm not just singling out Scottsdale. This stuff happens anywhere. That's a pin drop, Robin. We got to get that back up. Can't hand gesture without the pen in my hand, otherwise it throws the whole show flow off here. But, I think that exists, and I don't know if it's a certain socioeconomic circle or things. There's a lot of keeping up with the Joneses type of thing, and it feels like there's some gossip, certainly. I'm telling you, at the parent drop-off in the school, or where does your kid go to school? What what does your husband do for work? It's like, okay. It's honestly, it's exhausting. And for the people who are doing this, like, when I see that, I'm just like, ugh. Again, it just gives you the ick. It's like, really? Like that? You're 45 years old. That's what we're doing? We're talking about this? I don't know. It's just really off-putting for me. I think another thing why it's so detrimental for the person that's doing the gossip is it reinforces kind of this negative behavior as well. So gossiping about a family member's parenting style or coworker's work ethic can reinforce negative or judgmental mindset. And I think we'd be better off if we could not be doing that, right? I think the other thing it can do, it kind of stunts or potentially stunts someone's personal growth as well, too. If they're engaging in gossip, about somebody's financial struggles, it kind of distracts maybe from looking at their own world of whatever they've got going on, any self-improvement or personal reflection that they could be doing. It's kind of a way of looking out at all the others and being able to kind of cast things at them. And you're not really having to turn that mirror around and looking at yourself where it's like, oh, okay, it's just like a way of deflecting, right? The other thing it's going to do, obviously, is strain some relationships as well, too. Gossiping about a friend's private life or a colleague's performance can create tension and mistrust in personal and professional relationships. Look, let me just put this out there. I've been divorced twice. I've been to rehab twice. I'm a recovering drug addict and alcoholic. There's plenty of meat out there if you want to get started gossiping. And I've heard a lot of it. And you know what? I don't care. I've taken on this mantra of like, I'm unoffendable. And I really think I'm close to it. I'm sure everybody's offendable if somebody really found something at me but it's like, I've been on the other side of this thing. I've seen where it is. My family comes from some means, and people judge and get impressions about things and who I am or what I have or what they have and things that we do. And I'm like, A, none of that's mine. B, it's none of your business. C, okay, why are you even talking about this? So I've seen this, and I've grown up in a unique kind of environment in Scottsdale and Paradise Valley, and I've seen a lot of this stuff. And I've seen it to the point where it's like, A, that's why I really don't like this topic, and I really try hard not to engage in it. And B, it breeds this kind of cesspool of people that I just don't want to be around, right? I just don't want to be around. And I could see where it strains these relationships fairly easily, too. I mean, because it's just kind of this poison or venom that kind of flows around. And if you choose to kind of be a part of those things, it's hard. Now, I will get into in a minute of like, sometimes I'll end up in a conversation that was just a normal conversation, then all of a sudden gossip happens, and you're like, how do I like take a couple steps back here and like try and get out of this type of conversation without necessarily offending the person? But I've also gotten to the point where I don't care if you're being a jerk and saying kind of inappropriate or rude or gossiping things. I don't really care if I'm be like, hey, all right, I'm out. Take it easy. I'm out of here. And last thing, for the person doing the gossiping and why it's so detrimental, this is just harmful to a social standing. So a person who regularly gossips, for example, about spreading rumors or new relationships or job security, may find others distancing themselves due to their reputation as a gossiper. I mean, I think that we probably know some people who would be in our own lives and spheres gossipers, and I know I do, and I'm just like, you're a friend, you're a nice person, I don't dislike you, but I just keep a little distance. It's like, okay, I've had enough stuff going on in my life. I know what you're saying about this person when they're not there. What are you saying about me? Because, right, I've certainly had enough stuff where it's like, you can take your shots at what the old unlicensed counselor's had in his life. And that's okay. I've earned it. I don't hide from any of that stuff. But it's like, okay, if you're doing that when I'm not here, what's being said? So, anyways, bad for the person being gossiped about. Bad for the person that's doing the gossip. So why do people even still gossip when they know it's wrong? I think one of the reasons why we do this is there is kind of this feeling of a social bonding. So gossiping about a neighbor, their lifestyle, or their house, or their financial situation, or divorce. Like there's like a little bonding, like you're part of a little secret thing that you're kind of inside of. And I understand that. I understand how it can kind of bond some people together. I don't approve of it, but I can see, this segment is really on why do people do it even if they know it's wrong? And I can see the little bonding side of this thing. I just think most of the time this gossip kind of gets a step too far. It's one thing if we're just gossiping about a celebrity thing that we saw on TMZ or something like that. Like, I get it. Like, we're all just kind of looking at these kind of almost fictitious people and making comments and things like that. I would say it's probably still not the healthiest, but it's a little different when it's people that you interact with on a daily basis. And that's really the kind of gossip that I'm talking about. And the other reason why I think people continue to do it, even though they know it's wrong, is insecurity. I mean, I think we all have these insecurities about us. So when we're able to kind of chip away at other people, right, and kind of take our little shots, we're going to feel a little more superior, a little better than, kind of makes ourselves feel a little bit better when we're able to kind of take some shots at other people a little bit. So that insecurity, which is prevalent in all of us, even those of us that I would say are pretty secure, we all have our insecurities. And so when you're able to kind of do that, I just think it kind of gives you that little better than feeling, which again, I understand why people do this, even though they know it's wrong. I think gossip can also take on the form of entertainment as well, too. It's like discussing someone's romantic life. Ooh, did you see who they're dating? Ooh, did you see? Oh, I heard they're cheating. Oh, I heard that. Did you see the work that she got done? Did you see, like all of that stuff. So it's almost like this entertainment that we're kind of watching from a distance at someone else's expense. And it's not really healthy. But again, I understand why and how these things get started. We're just able to kind of, look from afar and take these little comments and with our friends, and you don't think they're ever going to get back to them. I think the other part of it is that, it's seeking attention behavior as well, too. So a person may gossip about, maybe somebody got a new car or trip or a promotion that they got, and they want to appear more informed, right? They want to appear more important. It's like, oh, I've got information that you don't have as well, too. And that kind of brings attention to me, the person who's on the inside track as well, too. So I get it. I get where that's coming from. I think that, again, and I touched on this before, it's also a way of avoiding personal issues. By focusing and gossiping on someone else's struggles and what they've got going on in their life, the gossiper avoids reflecting on kind of their own problems, right? It's an easy way. It's so easy to look external versus look internal and pick apart this person and that person when maybe you're actually picking apart the same things that you probably have going on in your own life, right? And the last reason why I'd say people do this, even though they know it's wrong, is they just lack awareness that they may be even doing it, right? People may not always recognize the harm caused when you're gossiping, and that's kind of what this episode is about today. They think it's just a casual conversation, but really, those casual little gossipy conversations can do harm, especially if it's a frequent occurrence as well, too. And just think about if that person was standing there and heard the things that were being said about them, would they approve of it or would it hurt their feelings? If that doesn't tell you what gossip is, I'm not sure there's a more clear definition, even better than the one I kind of started the show with, right? So, okay, we've talked about the harm. We talked about why people do it, even if they know if it's wrong. So, here are just some reasons why they gossip. Just jealous. I think a lot of people are just jealous. It may be the number one thing above all is just that kind of jealous thing. They may phrase it in a different way, but it's really kind of the underlying thing is kind of jealousy. It's envy or jealousy, I would say, as well, too. I think there's a certain thing of why they gossip around power dynamics as well, too, about, if you're able to kind of undermine some colleagues, in a work environment and kind of subvert them in some way, shape, or form, you can kind of exert your power or something around that. I think there's a little bit of boredom that kind of wraps into this potentially as well, too. In social settings, you go to some of these holiday parties, right, and you're stuck talking to the person that you talked to. The last time you talked to them was 364 days ago, and you're like, all right, oh, did you see Sally's new haircut? Or did you see Bill pull up in that new, or Jim got promoted to this? Jim's terrible, whatever it is, like you just kind of get into these things and it's like, what are we going to talk about? And you just kind of, inadvertently maybe roll into some of this gossip stuff. Now, I think there also may be a reason of kind of curiosity as well, too, wanting to know more details about a friend's private life or their financial situation or what they're doing, or did you hear they're cheating, or did you hear this, that, or the other thing, or they're having a hard time or getting divorced, whatever it is. So there's this kind of intrigue / curiosity that I think people, tend to gossip for as well, too. But I also think that they often are just seeking some validation. I think that maybe it's a validation for their own opinions and they want to see what they can get away with. And that just is another reason that maybe you could think of why someone would participate in this behavior. And then lastly, I think it's kind of, there could be this idea of competition as well, too. Trying to bring other people down, if someone's doing better than you and you can kind of plant some seeds of gossip to the circle around them, maybe you can kind of take them down a notch. It's just super unhealthy, negative behavior. But I just want to put these all out there in case you're living in a world where you're like, why? I feel like sometimes I'm being gossiped about. Are you seeing some of these examples of behavior, or are you the gossiper, right? And if you are, I hope that you're going to listen to this next section on how to break the habits of gossiping. Look, I understand a little bit of gossip here and there. I don't love it, but I understand it. We've all done it. I'm not above it. When I catch myself in that or in a conversation, I really do try and back out of it because I'm just like, that's no good. Like I don't want to be that person. I don't want that other person to hear that we're having a conversation like this. So how do we break the habit? So you've been a gossiper, fine. Maybe today will be the last day you hear this episode, light bulb go off. But how do you do it? How about we start with a little self-reflection, right? Recognize when you're tempted to gossip. Whether it's about your coworker, your neighbor, or whatever. Understanding your motives can help you stop the cycle. So really just stop and kind of raise your hand internally if you think you might be a gossiper. And let's just start with like, oh, okay. It's like the old, I always take it back to alcoholics, right? It's like, oh, I guess, Yeah, first I must admit I've got a drinking problem. Yeah, bingo, that was me. And I'd say the same thing happens to gossip, like, oh, or maybe somebody's called you a gossiper or something. Like maybe you just need to pause and do a little self-reflection. Next up, I would say shift the focus. Instead of talking about someone else's relationship or career or whatever, focus on positive topics or self-improvement or mutual interests. Kind of turn it back towards you in a little more positive light instead of kind of focusing on the other people as well. Let's maybe take it from your perspective and have a little more positive output instead of the gossiping negative output. How about expressing a little empathy as well, too? So before gossiping about a family's member's parenting or financial situation, put yourself in their shoes and consider how you would feel, right? I've gone into rooms before where I know people have said things about me. And it wasn't even that day or anything like that. But you walk into that room and it's like, I know that you know. I know that you heard, or I know that you know, or had that conversation, right? I know. And it just creates an uneasiness and awkwardness. So it's like, okay, how would that other person feel when you're in that conversation if they're going to walk in? Let's think about that ahead of time, and maybe that can curb that impulse to kind of participate in the gossip. What about setting some boundaries as well, too? When others trying to engage in gossip with you about a neighbor's, whatever situation, politely steer the conversation into another direction. This is something I have tried to do. It's not easy, by the way. It's like, ooh, okay, I hear you. I don't love talking about that kind of stuff. Anyways, did you see or hear about and it's just that kind of step shift, takes practice kind of to, redirect. We always talked about that, raising a little one too. It's like redirect if she's crying or focused on somebody. It's like the old redirect. Let's see if you can try a redirect to kind of get out of the gossiping situations as well too. The other thing you can do is just surround yourself with positive people. Spend more time with people who are uplifting and having meaningful conversations instead of those who are constantly gossiping. So pick your people that you want to be around a little bit more, right? We can start to push those folks off to the side. And you don't have to kick them to the curb, but choose who you want to spend your time with a little more effectively, and kind of you're not going to have to redirect conversations out of gossip if you're able to do that, right? And as always, this topic comes up in so many of the shows, is cultivate a little bit of gratitude. So practicing gratitude can shift your mindset, making you less likely to gossip about trivial little things like grades and coworkers and relationships and dating and all that kind of stuff. So if you kind of shift your mindset into a little more grateful place, a little bit more looking at the positive things that are going on in the world, which probably means a little less time on social media, if we're being honest, I think that you're going to find that you'll probably prevent some of those gossipy types of conversations from happening a little more frequently. Now, this one I like just because it fits my wiring as well, too, is confront gossip head on. If gossip is a problem in your friend group or if it's in his workplace, address it directly. Explain why gossiping about your neighbor, your coworker, your boss, or that relationship is harmful. Just address it, get it out in the open. You can be a little tactful around exactly how you do it, but I think that after you've tried a redirect, after you've tried to cultivate a mindset of gratitude, after you've tried kind of all the other things, and you're still walking in and it's still, did you see that? And it's like, okay, guys, look, I hear you. Can we knock off with the gossip a little bit? It's just, Susan's going to find out that you said that about her. I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want to hurt her feelings. Can we just maybe, try not to do that and see how that goes? But this way, you're at least getting it out there in the open. You're saying that you're addressing it head on, right? So I think the other thing to do is engage in honest conversation as well, too. If you have concerns about someone and gossiping, let's just see if we can address it directly with that person instead of kind of talking around them. I think it's a much easier way. And you may, if you've been a part of a gossipy type conversation, be like, look, I didn't mean to be a part of this conversation, but this came up. I just wanted to let you know. I'm sorry that I was even a part of it, but I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up. Oh, you're a tattletale, you're narking? No, I'm being an adult about this because I'm going to work with this person. I'm going to see this person. They're my neighbor. They're on my kid's school. They're on my soccer team. They're on the whatever. And let's just see if we can handle this like an adult. It's like, hey, this came up. This was said. Just want to fill you in. I don't want to be a part of this. I don't approve of this type of gossiping type of behavior. Just wanted to fill you in, right? I think the last thing that we can do to kind of prevent all this gossiping as well, too, let's replace gossip with compliments. What a novel idea, right? So replace gossip and that habit of kind of bringing people down with some compliments instead. Instead of criticizing a coworker's performance or things, focus on their strengths, their contributions, how nice they are, how funny. Like, let's shift things up instead of the tearing someone down to being a little more polite, a little nice, and throw out a compliment every once in a while. And I think that you'll find that gossip, or maybe you're going to start to make an impact on that culture of gossip that you could be living in right now. So, look, I think it's an interesting topic. It's one of these little things that actually has a big impact that I don't think we, or most people, think about all that much. It's just a natural byproduct of conversation, relationships, friends. We've all done it over times, but it really can be destructive. So if you're not comfortable with that person finding out what was being said who's not in the room now, then let's just try not to do that. If we could just try not to do that. But if this struck a nerve, or maybe you've got a friend that gossips a touch too much, go ahead and share this episode with them and then have a conversation. Be like, look, maybe we can start to work on this a little bit as well. I'd like to not personally be a part of a lot of gossipy types of conversation. So, as always on the Unlicensed Counselor, I like to bring these little tidbits, nuggets, thoughts, ideas, and throw them your way in about 30 minutes, so hopefully you can digest, take some action today, and maybe change some things in your old world. Okay, my name is Steve Moak. I am the Unlicensed Counselor. Till next time, thank you very much.